What is maltodextrin powder? Well, I'm going to cover what that means in part 2 in today's video, so stay tuned and don't go anywhere. Hey, this is Lance McGowan, the Tropical Smoothie Guy, and today we're going to cover what maltodextrin powder is, part 2, because there's just too much to cover that video 1 couldn't take it all. So I'm going to cover that in the next section.
What is maltodextrin powder? Well, this is part 2 of 2, and so make sure to check out video 1 if you haven't already, but part 2 is awesome because we're going to talk about the real concern is where the maltodextrin is sourced from and other ingredients, quote unquote, hiding in the food or supplements you're using. And some big offenders are monosodium glutamate or MSG, as well as ascorbic acid, which most ascorbic acid is actually derived from GMO corn as well. So I would try to avoid that as much as possible. And there's alternatives to getting your vitamin C, primarily through obviously fruits and some plant foods, but there are some non-GMO or non-corn based ascorbic acid options as well. But monosodium glutamate is a big one, and it has tons of names. I mean, there's a ridiculous amount of names that it goes by that make it very hard for the average person to recognize it on an ingredient label, and so they're always changing names. I would just type in monosodium glutamate, just Google it and just find out, alternative names for it, and you'll see like a really long list, which is really smart by the food companies to basically disguise it so you can't recognize it. But it's not so good for consumers because it creates a lot of confusion. And I'm sure there's different forms if they change it up a little bit, that allows them to use different names, but still it's not good. It's toxic for the brain, and you definitely don't want that. All right, so according to the Sweeteners and Sugar Alternatives and Food Technology, most people consume maltodextrin frequently without experiencing any adverse effects. I put a keyword there, most people. And some people were like, "Oh, you're fear mongering, Lance. You're trying to make it seem like maltodextrin's the enemy and all this other stuff." For me, maltodextrin is not the enemy. It's where it's derived from. And if it's derived from genetically modified corn, then there is going to be the use of pesticide or herbicides, and I'm not a fan of those. Those are toxic chemicals. And even if they're in very minute, small quantities, who wants to have minute, small quantities of toxins in their food? I don't. I mean, if somebody told you there was a little, a little tiny microscopic piece of rat poison in your soup or your sandwich or your, whatever it is you're eating, you'd be like, I don't want that thing. But, that's because you know that it's in there. But for this stuff, it's not, you don't know. I mean, well, you do know that corn and is heavily sprayed with pesticides and herbicides if it's genetically modified, which is over 90% of corn, and so it is in our foods and our products. And I'm not a big fan of the toxic chemical use of that, and it's really hard to separate GMO corn and toxic chemicals because that's the reason why corn is genetically modified so it can withstand all these toxic chemicals. So they're kind of like baked into each other. They're like Hansel and Gretel. They just go together. They're just like twins or something. They just go together, which doesn't go good in the body when you include all the other toxins we're exposed to in the air and the food and the water. And I can go on a whole long list of all those. But the point is minimizing or eliminating exposure to toxic chemicals every day is going to be important. All right, so the next steps are to subscribe to my YouTube channel.
I'm a fan of agave and organic coconut sugar, which aren't whole foods either, but at least they're from non-GMO sources. That's the big thing. And then number two, yeah, I use them sparingly, so they're not a big part of my day or my meals. And then, that's a really big thing too, is when you focus on more whole plant foods. Like there's so many other fruits and things like that could be used, but companies use them because it's a good filler, provides fat-like body and texture to things. So I get why they use it, but I'm just not a big fan of the maltodextrin. Well, that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to click the subscribe button so you can watch more videos like this one, or click one of the links in the description box below to get your learn on.